Some stories remind us that life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. What happens when a single day changes everything you thought you knew about success, dignity, and the true measure of a person's worth? This is one of those stories. Before we begin, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? I love connecting with viewers from all around the world. And if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and make you think, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next incredible tale. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's dive into today's story. The morning sun cast long shadows across the gleaming marble floors of the Meridian Tower in downtown Manhattan. It was 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in late September, and the air carried that crisp promise of autumn that made New York feel alive with possibility. The 50-story glass and steel structure stood as a testament to modern architecture, its reflective surface catching the golden light and scattering it across the awakening city below. Marcus Thompson pushed his cleaning cart through the lobby, the wheels squeaking softly against the polished stone. At 43 years old, he'd been working as a janitor for Build Right Services for nearly 2 years now, and he'd grown to appreciate the quiet solitude of early morning shifts. The building was always empty at this hour, save for the occasional security guard making rounds, and Marcus found peace in the repetitive rhythm of his work. He wore the standard navy blue uniform with the Build Right logo stitched on the pocket, slightly faded from countless washes. His hands, calloused from years of manual labor, gripped the mop handle with practiced ease. Marcus had worked many jobs in his life: construction, warehouse loading, even a brief stint as a taxi driver, but this one allowed him time to think, to plan, to dream about the day when things might be different. The lobby was magnificent, even he had to admit. Imported Italian marble, brass fixtures that gleamed like gold, and a massive crystal chandelier that probably cost more than he'd earn in 10 years. Sometimes, on quiet mornings like this, Marcus would pause and look around, trying to imagine what it must be like to work in one of those corner offices up top, to wear a suit that cost thousands of dollars, to have people call you sir with genuine respect rather than obligation. "Morning, Marcus," called out Dennis, the night security guard, a heavy-set man in his 50s with a salt and pepper beard. "Morning, Dennis. Quiet night?" "As always, though I heard there's some big meeting today. Top floor. They're bringing in extra cleaning crew for it." Marcus nodded, not particularly interested. Big meetings happened all the time in buildings like this. To him, they just meant more work, more trash to clean, more coffee spills on expensive carpets. He made his way to the service elevator, the one hidden behind a discreet door that most of the building's prestigious occupants never noticed. It was slower, older, and the fluorescent light inside flickered occasionally, but it was his elevator, part of his world within this building. As the elevator climbed, Marcus thought about his daughter, Jasmine. She was 15 now, smart as a whip, and doing well at Brooklyn Technical High School. She wanted to be an engineer, talked constantly about designing buildings that could withstand earthquakes and help people in disaster zones. Marcus's ex-wife, Nicole, had full custody, but he saw Jasmine every other weekend, and those visits were what kept him going through the long nights and early mornings. The money was tight, always tight. Child support took a chunk of his paycheck. Rent on his small studio apartment in Queens took another, and what remained barely covered food, transportation, and the occasional school supplies Jasmine needed. He'd been trying to save for her college fund, putting away $20 or $30 when he could, but emergencies always seemed to pop up. A broken tooth here, a winter coat there, and the savings never grew the way he hoped. The elevator dinged, announcing his arrival at the 20th floor. Marcus stepped out and began his routine. Empty the trash bins in the break room, clean the bathrooms, vacuum the common areas, wipe down the glass doors and windows. It was mindless work, which meant his thoughts could wander. He thought about his own father, who'd worked in a steel mill in Pennsylvania for 30 years before it closed down. The old man had died 5 years ago, worn out and bitter, having never quite recovered from the loss of that job, that identity. Marcus had promised himself he wouldn't end up like that, stuck, angry, unable to adapt, but here he was, pushing a mop at 43, wondering if this was all there was. "You're being ungrateful," he muttered to himself as he scrubbed at a stubborn stain near the water fountain. "You've got your health, you've got Jasmine, you've got work. Some folks have less." It was what his mother used to say, back before she'd passed from cancer 3 years after his father. She'd been a woman of deep faith, always finding the silver lining, always believing that God had a plan. Marcus wasn't sure he shared her certainty anymore, but he tried to hold on to the attitude, the gratitude, even when it felt forced. By 9:30 a.m., the building had come alive. Employees streamed through the lobbies and corridors, their voices creating a constant hum of conversation and activity. They were a different species, Marcus sometimes thought. These people in their designer clothes talking about stock options and market trends and vacation homes in the Hamptons. They moved through the space he cleaned as if he were invisible, which was fine by him. Invisibility had its advantages. He was cleaning the men's room on the 35th floor when he overheard two young executives talking by the sinks. "Did you hear? Khalid al-Rashid is in the building today," one said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "The Khalid al-Rashid? The guy from Dubai?" "The very same. Word is he's considering a major investment in the company. Could mean big bonuses if this goes through. Man, to have that kind of money. I heard he's worth, what, 8 billion? At least, probably more. He owns half the real estate in the Middle East, plus tech companies, oil interests. The guy's a walking Fortune 500 company all by himself." Marcus continued wiping down the stalls, unnoticed and unacknowledged. Billionaires, investments, bonuses. It was all just noise from another world. At noon, Marcus took his lunch break in the small employee locker room in the basement. He'd brought a sandwich from home, turkey and cheese on white bread, an apple, a bottle of water. He ate alone, scrolling through his phone, looking at photos Jasmine had sent him from her robotics club. She looked so happy, so full of potential. It made his chest ache with pride and fear in equal measure. "I'll get you to college, baby girl," he whispered to the photo. "I don't know how yet, but I will." His shift was supposed to end at 3 p.m., and he was looking forward to heading home, maybe catching a nap before his evening shift at the grocery store where he stocked shelves 3 nights a week. 2 jobs weren't ideal, but they kept the bills paid and gave him a little extra for Jasmine. At 2:30 p.m., as Marcus was finishing up on the 42nd floor, his supervisor, a perpetually stressed woman named Patricia, came hurrying down the hallway, her heels clicking urgently against the tile. "Marcus, thank God I found you. I need you to do me a huge favor." He straightened up, leaning on his mop. "What's going on, Patricia?" "We've got a situation. The executive suite on the top floor. They need someone up there right away. They had a special cleaning crew scheduled for this VIP meeting, but the whole team called out sick. Food poisoning from some lunch place downtown. It's a disaster." Marcus glanced at his watch. "Patricia, I'm off in 30 minutes, and I've got to get to my other job." I know, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't an emergency. Look, it's just 1 floor, and they mostly need someone to be present. Make sure things stay clean during the meeting. Maybe refresh some coffee. 3 hours. Tops. I'll pay you overtime. Time and a half. And she lowered her voice conspiratorially. There might be a generous tip in it. These are seriously wealthy people up there today. Marcus did the math in his head. Time and a half for 3 hours plus maybe a tip. That could be an extra $100, maybe more. That was textbooks for Jasmine, or a month of his subway card, or a solid addition to the college fund. "Okay," he said. "I'll call my other supervisor. See if I can come in late, but I can only stay until 6 at the latest." Patricia's face flooded with relief. "You're a lifesaver, Marcus. Seriously, take the service elevator straight to 50. Ask for Mr. Chen when you get there. He's handling the meeting logistics." 20 minutes later, Marcus stepped out of the service elevator onto the 50th floor, and it was like entering a different universe. If the lower floors were nice, this was extraordinary. The carpet was so plush it felt like walking on clouds. The walls were paneled in what looked like real mahogany, and original artwork hung in subtle spotlights. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Manhattan, the city sprawling out below like a living map. A young Asian man in an immaculate black suit approached him immediately. "You must be the replacement from Buildrite?" "I'm James Chen, executive assistant to Mr. Whitmore." "Marcus Thompson. My supervisor said you needed someone for a few hours." "Exactly. Look, this is pretty straightforward. We have a very important client visiting today, and we need someone to maintain the conference room, keep the coffee station stocked, and handle any, let's call them, environmental needs that arise. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir. That's no problem." James looked relieved. "Great. The meeting starts in about 40 minutes. Let me show you where everything is." Marcus followed James through the executive suite, taking mental notes. The conference room was massive, with a table that could easily seat 20 people. One wall was entirely glass, offering that stunning view. A smaller room adjacent held the coffee station, fully stocked with what Marcus recognized as very expensive equipment. An espresso machine that probably cost more than his monthly rent, an assortment of gourmet coffee beans, imported teas, crystal glassware. "Keep this area immaculate," James instructed. "Mr. Al-Rashid is particular about his environment. Fresh coffee every hour, Make sure the temperature in the conference room stays at exactly 71 degrees. And if anyone asks for anything, you do your best to provide it immediately. Understood? Understood. Oh, and Marcus, try to be invisible. These are high-level discussions. Be present when needed, but don't insert yourself into the proceedings. Marcus almost smiled. Invisibility. That was his specialty. James left him to prepare, and Marcus set about his work with his usual meticulous attention to detail. He wiped down every surface, arranged the coffee station just so, made sure the conference room was perfect. Through the glass walls, he could see executives gathering, men and women in expensive suits speaking in low, serious tones. At exactly 3:30 p.m., the meeting began. Marcus watched from the coffee station as about a dozen people filed into the conference room, and then he saw him, Khalid al-Rashid. The man was probably in his mid-50s, tall and distinguished, with salt and pepper hair and a neatly trimmed beard. He wore a suit that Marcus could tell, even from a distance, was custom-tailored, probably Italian, probably worth more than Marcus made in 6 months. But it was the man's bearing that really struck him. Confident without being arrogant, observant, the kind of person who commanded attention simply by entering a room. 2 other men flanked al-Rashid, clearly security or assistants, and they took positions near the door while the billionaire took a seat at the head of the table. The meeting began, voices murmuring behind the thick glass, and Marcus returned to his work, cleaning coffee cups, restocking supplies, being invisible. About an hour in, James Chen appeared at Marcus's elbow. Mr. al-Rashid would like fresh Arabic coffee. Do you know how to make it? Marcus hesitated. I've never made Arabic coffee before, sir. James's face tightened with stress. Okay. There should be instructions with the beans. It's crucial you get this right. He's very particular. Marcus found the bag of Arabic coffee, marked Al-Safa, finest cardamom blend, and the instructions printed on an elegant card beside it. He read them carefully, then set about the preparation, conscious that every movement mattered. The water had to be heated just so. The coffee added at a specific point, cardamom measured precisely, then poured into a small traditional pot called a dala. His hands were steady despite his nervousness. Years of following instructions, of doing things right the first time because he couldn't afford mistakes, had trained him well. He prepared the coffee exactly as described, poured it into a small ornate cup, and placed it on a tray with a glass of water and a few dates. James inspected his work with a critical eye, then nodded. Looks good. I'll take it in. Marcus watched through the glass as James delivered the coffee. Al-Rashid barely glanced up from the documents in front of him, took the cup, sipped, and continued his conversation. No reaction, which Marcus took as a good sign. At least he hadn't screwed it up. The afternoon wore on. Marcus made coffee, cleared cups, adjusted the thermostat, maintained his invisible presence. He couldn't hear what was being discussed, but he could read body language, and it seemed tense. There were moments of animated conversation, hands gesturing, heads shaking and nodding. At one point, he saw al-Rashid lean back in his chair, arms crossed, listening with an expression that gave nothing away. Around 5 p.m., the meeting took a break. The executives filed out, heading presumably to the restrooms or to make phone calls. Marcus used the opportunity to clean the conference room quickly, gathering empty cups and wiping down surfaces. He was just finishing when he heard the door open behind him. He turned to find Khalid al-Rashid standing alone in the doorway, watching him with those observant eyes. "Sir," Marcus said, straightening up, unsure of protocol. "Can I get you anything?" Al-Rashid stepped into the room, his movements unhurried. "The coffee was excellent. You prepared it?" "Yes, sir. First time, actually. I hope it was acceptable." "It was perfect. You followed the instructions exactly?" "Yes, sir." Seemed like the smart thing to do. The billionaire's lips curved slightly. Not quite a smile, but close. "Indeed. What is your name?" "Marcus Thompson, sir." "You work here regularly, Marcus?" "I'm with the cleaning service, Build Right. I usually work the lower floors, but they needed someone up here today on short notice." Al-Rashid nodded slowly, still studying him with that intense, analytical gaze. "And what do you think of this building, Marcus? Is it well maintained?" The question surprised him. "It's beautiful, sir. Probably the nicest building I've worked in. The people who own it, they clearly take pride in it." "Do they?" Al-Rashid moved to the window, looking out at the cityscape. "Tell me, Marcus, do you take pride in your work?" It was such an unexpected question that Marcus answered honestly. "I try to, sir. It's not glamorous, but it matters. People want to work in a clean environment, want to feel like their space is taken care of. So yeah, I take pride in doing it right. Even though most people don't notice, especially because most people don't notice, means I did my job right." Al-Rashid turned back to face him, and there was something in his expression, a hint of approval, perhaps, or recognition. That's an admirable philosophy. Do you have family, Marcus? A daughter, Jasmine. She's 15. Lives with her mother in Brooklyn. And what does Jasmine want to be when she grows up? Marcus felt himself relax slightly. Talking about his daughter always made everything else fade away. An engineer. She wants to design buildings that help people, especially in places where there are natural disasters. She's brilliant, sir. Way smarter than I ever was. You must be very proud. Every single day. Will she go to college? The question hit a nerve, brought Marcus back to the reality of his situation. That's the plan. I'm saving what I can. And she's a good student, so hopefully scholarships will make it work somehow. Al-Rashid nodded, still studying him with that penetrating gaze. Life often requires us to be resourceful, doesn't it? To find ways forward even when the path is not clear. Yes, sir, that's the truth. Before the conversation could continue, voices echoed from the hallway. The executives were returning. Al-Rashid gave Marcus a slight nod, almost a bow, and said, "Thank you for the coffee, Marcus Thompson, and for your honesty." "Of course, sir." The billionaire returned to his seat as the others filed back in, and Marcus retreated to the coffee station, his mind spinning. That had been one of the strangest conversations he'd ever had. Why would someone like Khalid al-Rashid care about a janitor's daughter or his philosophy on work? The meeting resumed, and Marcus checked his watch. It was 5:25 p.m. He had to leave by 6 p.m. if he was going to make it to his grocery store shift on time. The subway ride alone would take 40 minutes. At 5:50, the meeting was still going strong, showing no signs of wrapping up. Marcus felt the tension building in his chest. He needed this overtime pay, but he also needed his other job. Couldn't afford to lose either. James Chen appeared beside him, phone in hand, looking stressed. "They're running over. Going to need you to stay another hour at least." "Mr. Chen, I explained to Patricia I had to leave by 6. I have another job." "I understand, but this meeting is crucial. We'll pay you double time for the extra hour." "Please, Marcus." Double time. That was significant money. But if he was late to the grocery store again, his supervisor there had made it clear there wouldn't be another warning. He'd be fired. Marcus made a decision that surprised himself. "I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. I really am. But I can't lose my other job. I have to leave at 6. James's face went through several expressions. Surprise, frustration, resignation. Okay, I understand. Do what you need to do." At 6 o'clock, Marcus gathered his things, changed back into his street clothes in the small staff bathroom, and headed for the service elevator. As he passed the conference room, he could see them all still in there, deep in discussion. Al-Rashid was standing now, gesturing toward documents projected on a large screen. For a moment, Marcus paused, taking in the scene. This was the world of money and power. Decisions that affected thousands of jobs and millions of dollars, made by people in climate-controlled rooms high above the city. It was so far removed from his reality that it might as well be another planet. And yet, for just a few minutes, one of those people had talked to him like he mattered, like his thoughts and his life had value. That was something. The subway was crowded, as always during rush hour. Marcus stood pressed among dozens of other working people, all heading to various jobs and homes and obligations. He made it to the grocery store at 6:48 p.m., 12 minutes late, but not catastrophically so. His supervisor, a thin man named Darryl with a perpetual scowl, gave him a look, but said nothing. Marcus clocked in and got to work, stocking shelves with canned goods, cereal boxes, pasta packages. His body ached from the long day, but he pushed through. This was his life. Work, sleep, work again, always trying to stay one step ahead of the bills. He got home to his small studio apartment in Queens at 11:30 p.m., so tired he could barely see straight. The apartment was modest, a Murphy bed that pulled down from the wall, a small kitchenette, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. But it was his, and it was clean, and it was in a relatively safe neighborhood, more than some people had. Marcus heated up some leftover rice and chicken in the microwave, ate it standing at the kitchen counter, then collapsed into bed. His last thought before sleep took him was of Jasmine and the college fund, and how today's overtime would add another precious few dollars to it. The next morning, Marcus was back in the Meridian Tower at 6:47 a.m., pushing his cleaning cart through the same lobby, following the same routine. Life moved on. Yesterday's meeting with billionaires and Arabic coffee might as well have been a dream. He was cleaning the bathrooms on the 15th floor around 9 a.m. when Patricia found him, and her expression was strange, nervous and excited at the same time. "Marcus, I need you to come with me." "What's wrong? Did I mess something up yesterday?" No, nothing like that. Just come with me to the 50th floor. Marcus's stomach tightened. "Patricia, I don't understand. Trust me. You're not in trouble. Quite the opposite. They rode the main elevator this time, not the service one, and Patricia wouldn't say anything more despite his questions. When the doors opened on the 50th floor, James Chen was waiting, and he was smiling. "Marcus, thank you for coming. Mr. Al-Rashid would like to speak with you." "Mr. Al-Rashid, why? Is this about me leaving early yesterday?" "Because I explained. You're not in any trouble," James assured him. "Please, follow me." They led him through the executive suite to a smaller private office he hadn't seen before, and there, seated behind a desk with the Manhattan skyline spread out behind him, was Khalid Al-Rashid. He stood as Marcus entered, gesturing to a chair. "Marcus Thompson, please sit." Marcus sat, feeling completely out of his depth. Patricia and James had retreated, closing the door behind them. It was just him and the billionaire now, and Marcus's heart was pounding so hard, he was sure Al-Rashid could hear it. "I want to tell you a story," Al-Rashid began, settling back into his own chair. "When I was a young man, 23 years old, I had nothing. My father had died, leaving my family with debts. I worked in construction in Dubai, carrying bricks in the summer heat, making barely enough to feed myself, let alone help my mother and sisters." Marcus listened, surprised. This wasn't what he'd expected. "One day," Al-Rashid continued, "I was working on a building site for a wealthy developer. He came to inspect the work, and he saw me, really saw me, not just as a laborer, but as a person. He asked me questions. What did I think of the building? Did I have dreams? Was I content with my life? The parallel was suddenly, strikingly clear. Marcus's breath caught. "I told him the truth," Al-Rashid said, "that I wanted more, that I had ideas for how buildings could be designed better, more efficiently, more sustainably." He listened, and then he offered me a chance to work in his office, to learn the business, to prove myself. "And you did," Marcus said quietly. "I did. It took years, many years of work and sacrifice and learning. But that man, that developer who saw potential in a brick carrier, he changed the entire trajectory of my life." Al-Rashid leaned forward. "Yesterday, Marcus, I was conducting due diligence on this building and the company that owns it. I was evaluating whether they were worth my investment, not just financially, but philosophically. Do they value excellence? Do they treat people with dignity? Do they understand that an organization is only as good as every person within it? From the CEO to the janitor?" Marcus felt his pulse quickening. "I tested everyone I met yesterday," Al-Rashid said. "Executives, managers, assistants. I asked specific questions, observed how they treated support staff, watched how they conducted themselves when they thought no one important was looking. And do you know what I found?" "What, sir?" "Most of them failed. They were competent at their jobs, certainly, but they lacked something essential. They had forgotten that businesses are ultimately about people, serving them, uplifting them, creating value that extends beyond profit margins." Al-Rashid stood and moved to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. "Then I met you, a janitor, called in at the last minute, preparing Arabic coffee for the first time because you followed instructions precisely. A man who took pride in invisible work. A father working 2 jobs to save for his daughter's education." He turned back to face Marcus. "Do you know what happened after you left yesterday?" Marcus shook his head, unable to speak. The meeting concluded. The executives from this company presented their final pitch for why I should invest $300 million in their firm. They talked about market share and growth projections and synergies, all important things. Al-Rashid paused. "But I had already made my decision, and it had nothing to do with their presentation." "I don't understand," Marcus managed. "I spoke with your supervisor, Patricia. I asked about you, your work history, your reputation, your situation. Then I spoke with James Chen. I asked him about your interaction when you left early for your other job. He said you were apologetic but firm, that you couldn't stay despite the financial incentive because you had a commitment elsewhere. Do you know what that told me? That I'm difficult?" Marcus asked, attempting a nervous smile. Al-Rashid laughed, a genuine warm sound. "It told me you are a man of integrity, that when you give your word, you keep it, that you value reliability over convenience. These are rare qualities, Marcus, in any tax bracket." The billionaire returned to his desk and pulled out a folder. "I did not invest in this company. Their financials were good, but their culture was not. They treated their support staff as invisible, paid them poorly, showed no real respect for the people who keep their building running. That is not the kind of organization I support." Marcus's mind was reeling. "So, what does this mean?" "It means several things. First, I have recommended to the building's ownership that BuildRight Services receive a significant bonus for the excellent work you performed yesterday, with the majority going directly to you. That should arrive in your paycheck within the week." Marcus's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't know what to say." Al-Rashid held up a hand. "I'm not finished. Second, I have purchased a controlling stake in BuildRight Services itself. The company will undergo some changes. Better wages, better benefits, better treatment of employees. You will see the effects of that soon enough. You bought the whole company. It was undervalued and poorly managed. Now it will be properly valued and well managed. But that brings me to my third point. Al-Rashid opened the folder and slid a document across the desk. I'm offering you a position in my organization, Marcus Thompson. Marcus stared at the document, the words swimming before his eyes. A position? I don't understand. I'm a janitor. I don't have a college degree. You have something more valuable than a degree, Al-Rashid interrupted. You have character. You have work ethic. You have the ability to take pride in what you do, regardless of what others think. These things cannot be taught in a classroom. Marcus picked up the document with trembling hands. It was a job offer. Facilities manager for Al-Rashid Properties, New York Division. The salary listed made him blink 3 times to make sure he was reading it correctly. It was more than triple what he currently made at both jobs combined. I don't have experience managing people, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. You will learn. I am also offering you access to our professional development program. You'll take courses in management, facility operations, budgeting, safety protocols. You'll have mentors, resources, support, but most importantly, you'll have an opportunity to prove what I already know, that you are capable of excellence. Marcus's vision blurred. He realized he was crying, tears running down his face, and he couldn't stop them. Why? He asked. Why me? You don't know me. You talked to me for 5 minutes. Al-Rashid came around the desk and placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. I know you better than you think. I know what it's like to be invisible, to work hard and wonder if anyone notices, to love your child so much that you sacrifice everything for their future. I was you, Marcus. Someone gave me a chance and it changed everything. Now I'm giving you that chance. What if I fail? Marcus asked, the fear suddenly overwhelming. Then you fail, and we figure out what comes next. But I don't think you will. You know why? Because when you prepared that Arabic coffee yesterday, you didn't cut corners. When you had to leave for your other job, you honored your commitment, even though it cost you money. These small choices, Marcus, they reveal who we really are, and who you are is someone worth investing in. Marcus wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, trying to compose himself. I have to give notice at my jobs. Of course. Take a week. Get your affairs in order. Your start date is flexible. Al-Rashid returned to his seat. But there's one more thing. That college fund you've been building for Jasmine? Yes, sir. My foundation offers scholarships for the children of our employees. Full ride, tuition, room and board, books, everything, to any accredited university in the United States. When Jasmine is ready, if she qualifies academically, which I suspect she will, the scholarship is hers. Marcus couldn't speak. His chest felt like it might explode from the pressure of the emotions flooding through him. He thought of Jasmine, of all the nights he'd lain awake worrying about her future, of all the hours he'd worked trying to scrape together enough for even a year of community college. I don't deserve this, he finally said. Deserve has nothing to do with it, Al-Rashid replied gently. This is not charity, Marcus. I am not rescuing you. I am making a sound business decision by bringing a man of quality into my organization. The fact that it also changes your life, that is simply the right thing happening to someone who has been working hard and waiting for his chance. Marcus stood, steadying himself against the desk. Then I accept. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. I know you won't. Al-Rashid stood as well and extended his hand. Marcus shook it, feeling the firm, confident grip of a man who had once carried bricks in the Dubai heat and now commanded billions. As Marcus turned to leave, Al-Rashid called after him. Marcus, one more thing. When you're settled in your new role, when you're walking through buildings and evaluating staff and making decisions about operations, remember something. What's that, sir? Never forget what it was like to push that cleaning cart at 6:47 in the morning. Never forget what it's like to be invisible. Because the day you forget, that is the day you stop being the man I hired. Marcus nodded, unable to trust his voice. He left the office and found Patricia and James waiting in the hallway, both smiling. Patricia hugged him, laughing and crying at the same time. I knew there was something special about you, she said. From the first day you started with us. I need to finish my shift, Marcus said, still dazed. Are you kidding? Patricia laughed. Go home, Marcus. Call your daughter. Celebrate. You've earned it. But Marcus shook his head. No, ma'am. I've got floors 15 through 30 today, and they're not going to clean themselves. I'll work out my notice properly. That's what you do. Patricia just shook her head, smiling. Of course you will. Marcus took the service elevator down, retrieved his cleaning cart from where he'd left it, and returned to the 15th floor. He had bathrooms to clean, trash to collect, floors to mop. The work was the same as it had been yesterday, and the day before that, and all the days stretching back since he'd started this job. But everything was different now. As he pushed his mop across the gleaming floors, Marcus thought about chance and choice, about being seen and being invisible, about the small moments that can change everything. He thought about a young man carrying bricks in Dubai, about a developer who saw potential where others saw only labor, about how kindness ripples forward through time. He thought about Jasmine, about calling her tonight and telling her that college was no longer a maybe, but a certainty, that her dreams of designing buildings to help people were going to come true. And he thought about Al-Rashid's final words, never forget what it was like to be invisible, because he wouldn't, he couldn't. That invisibility had shaped him, had taught him humility and perseverance, and the value of pride in work well done, regardless of who was watching. The building hummed with activity around him, people rushing past on their important business, most of them never noticing the man with the mop, the cleaning cart, the quiet dignity, and that was okay, because Marcus Thompson understood something that many of them didn't, that every job done well matters, that how you treat people when no one important is looking says everything about who you really are, and that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one everyone thinks is invisible. 3 weeks later, on his first day as facilities manager for Al-Rashid Properties, Marcus stood in front of the mirror in his new apartment, a 2-bedroom in a better neighborhood, closer to Brooklyn so he could see Jasmine more often, and adjusted his tie. It was his first tie in years, part of a new wardrobe he'd purchased with his signing bonus. He looked different, felt different, but when he caught his own eyes in the reflection, he made himself a promise, never forget. Never forget the cleaning cart, the early mornings, the struggle, the invisibility. Those things weren't shameful. They were part of his story, the foundation of who he'd become. His phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine. Good luck today, Dad. You're going to be amazing. Love you. Marcus smiled, his chest swelling with emotion. He typed back, love you too, baby girl. See you this weekend. We're celebrating. The new job came with challenges he'd never imagined. Managing teams, learning new software, understanding complex building systems, navigating corporate politics. But Al-Rashid had been true to his word. There were mentors, training programs, patience as Marcus learned and grew. More importantly, Marcus brought something unique to his role. He knew the buildings from the ground up, literally. He understood the people who cleaned them, maintained them, secured them. He knew their struggles, their pride, their invisibility, and he made sure that in every building under his supervision, those people were seen, valued, and fairly compensated. 6 months into his new role, Marcus was reviewing operations at a building in Brooklyn when he noticed something. The janitorial staff looked exhausted, overworked, demoralized. He investigated and discovered they were being underpaid and understaffed, expected to maintain a massive building with half the crew they needed. Marcus didn't hesitate. He went to Al-Rashid directly with a proposal. Increase the janitorial budget by 40%, hire additional staff, improve wages and benefits. The numbers showed it would barely dent profitability, and the improvement in building maintenance and employee morale would more than justify the cost. Al-Rashid had approved it immediately, with one comment, "This is exactly why I hired you, Marcus. You see what others overlook." A year after that day in the Meridian Tower, Marcus stood on the stage at Jasmine's robotics competition, watching with pride as she and her team presented their earthquake-resistant building design. She was confident, articulate, brilliant, and when she won first place, the scholarship offers started coming in even before Al-Rashid's foundation scholarship, though she'd have that one as backup. After the ceremony, Jasmine ran to him, trophy in hand, her face lit up with joy. "We did it, Dad. You did it, baby," Marcus said, hugging her tight. "I'm so proud of you. I couldn't have done it without you," she said. "You worked so hard to make sure I had this chance. You never gave up, and I never will," Marcus promised. Later that evening, Marcus received a call from an unknown number. When he answered, he heard a familiar voice. "Marcus Thompson, I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Mr. Al-Rashid." "No, sir, not at all. I wanted to check in. See how you're adjusting to the role. I hear excellent things from your supervisors." "Thank you, sir. I'm learning every day. It's challenging, but I love it." "Good. And your daughter?" "I heard about her robotics competition." Marcus smiled. "First place. She's already got scholarship offers from 3 universities. Outstanding. That girl is going to change the world, Marcus." "I believe she will, sir." There was a pause. Then Al-Rashid said, "Do you remember what I told you about never forgetting where you came from?" "Every single day, sir." "Good, because I have a new opportunity for you. I'm expanding operations in the Southeast, Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte. I need someone to oversee the entire region's facilities operations. It's a significant promotion, Marcus. More responsibility, more salary, more travel, but also more opportunity to make a real difference. To implement the same changes you've made in New York across dozens of buildings. Marcus's mind raced. Regional director? Him? A year ago he'd been pushing a mop. Now, I'll do it, he said. When do I start? Al-Rashid laughed. Take a week to think about it. Discuss it with Jasmine since it will affect your time together. But I'm pleased you're interested. You've earned this, Marcus. After they hung up, Marcus sat in his living room, looking out at the city lights. He thought about trajectory, about how one moment, one conversation, one act of genuine human connection could alter the entire course of a life. He thought about all the other people out there, working invisible jobs, wondering if they'd ever get their chance, if anyone would ever see them for who they really were and what they could become. And he made another promise to himself. He would be that person for someone else. He would look beyond titles and credentials and see the person underneath. He would remember what it felt like to be given a chance, and he would pass that gift forward. Because that's what Khalid al-Rashid had really given him. Not just a job or financial security, but the understanding that everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, to have someone believe in their potential. 2 years after that September morning when he'd prepared Arabic coffee for a billionaire, Marcus stood in front of a team of facilities managers across the southeast region. They were looking to him for leadership, for vision, for direction. I want to tell you a story, Marcus began, and he saw them settle in, paying attention. A few years ago, I was a janitor, working 2 jobs, struggling to make ends meet. Most people looked right through me. I was invisible. But one person saw me, really saw me, and everything changed. He paused, looking at each face in the room. Our job is to manage buildings and operations, but really, our job is to see people. Every janitor, every maintenance worker, every security guard, every person who makes these buildings function, they deserve to be seen, valued, and given opportunities to grow. That's not just good ethics, it's good business. The room was silent, attentive. So here's what we're going to do, Marcus continued. We're going to create pathways, training programs, mentorship opportunities. We're going to look for the people everyone else overlooks and ask ourselves, what potential are we missing? Who could be great if someone just gave them a chance? One of the managers, a woman named Susan, raised her hand. That's a beautiful vision, Marcus, but how do we make it practical? How do we implement it? Marcus smiled. We start by remembering that we're all one moment away from being invisible ourselves. We stay humble. We stay aware, and we never ever forget that the measure of a person has nothing to do with their job title, and everything to do with how they treat others when no one important is watching. The meeting continued. Plans were made, programs were designed, and in the months that followed, Marcus's region became a model for the entire company. Turnover decreased, morale improved, productivity increased. People worked harder because they felt valued, because they could see paths forward, because someone finally saw them. On a Monday morning in early September, exactly 3 years after that fateful day in the Meridian Tower, Marcus received a message from al-Rashid asking him to come to New York for a meeting. He flew in that afternoon, wondering what this was about. When he arrived at al-Rashid's private office, he found not just the billionaire, but several other executives from the company's leadership team. Al-Rashid stood and embraced him warmly. Marcus, thank you for coming on short notice. Please, sit. Marcus sat, curious and slightly nervous. 3 years ago, al-Rashid began, addressing the room. I met this man when he was working as a janitor. I saw in him something that others had missed: integrity, dedication, the ability to take pride in any task. I offered him an opportunity, and he has exceeded every expectation. The other executives nodded, smiling at Marcus. Marcus, al-Rashid continued, I am stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'm not retiring, but I'm transitioning to a more advisory role. The company needs new leadership for the Americas division. Someone who understands our values, who leads with compassion and wisdom, who never forgets that businesses are ultimately about people. Marcus's heart began to pound. I'm offering you the position of Vice President of Operations for the Americas. You would oversee all facilities operations from Canada to Chile. It's a massive responsibility. You'd be one of the youngest VPs in the company's history, but I can think of no one more qualified. The room seemed to tilt. Marcus gripped the arms of his chair. Sir, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. Say yes, al-Rashid said simply, or say you need time to think. But know this, you've already proven yourself 100 times over. This isn't a risk. It's recognition of what you've already accomplished. Marcus thought about Jasmine, now preparing for her freshman year at MIT on a full scholarship. He thought about the hundreds of employees whose lives had improved because of programs he'd implemented. He thought about the young man he'd once been, pushing a cleaning cart and wondering if anyone would ever see him. "I accept," he said, his voice steady despite the emotions surging through him. "And I promise you, sir, I will never forget where I came from. That janitor, that man pushing the cleaning cart. He's still here. He always will be." Al-Rashid's eyes glistened with emotion. "I know, Marcus. That's exactly why you're the right person for this job." That evening, Marcus called Jasmine from his hotel room. "Dad, how did the meeting go?" "Pretty well, baby girl. I got a promotion." "That's amazing. What's the new position?" "Vice President of Operations for the Americas." There was a long silence on the other end. Then Jasmine's voice, thick with tears. "Dad, I'm so proud of you. You worked so hard. You never gave up. You deserve this. We deserve this, Jasmine. Everything I've done has been for you, to give you the chances I never had, to make sure you never have to struggle the way I did. I know, Dad, and I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to design buildings that help people, just like you've built systems that help people. We're going to change things, both of us." After they hung up, Marcus stood at his hotel window, looking out at the glittering expanse of Manhattan. 3 years ago, he'd been down there somewhere, riding the subway to his second job, worried about making rent, hoping for a break that seemed like it would never come. And then a billionaire had seen him, really seen him, not his uniform or his title or his bank account, but the person underneath, the father, the worker, the man who took pride in invisible work. That moment of being seen had changed everything. Marcus made one more promise to himself, the most important one yet. Every day, in every interaction, he would look for the invisible people, the ones working hard, struggling, hoping someone would notice their potential. And when he found them, he would do what Al-Rashid had done for him. Give them a chance. Believe in them. Help them become who they were meant to be. Because that's how you change the world. Not through grand gestures or massive donations, though those have their place. You change the world by seeing people, by treating them with dignity, by recognizing that potential exists everywhere if someone would just take the time to look for it. The city glittered below him, full of millions of stories. Millions of invisible people working hard and hoping for their chance. And Marcus Thompson, former janitor and future vice president, understood something profound. He'd been given an extraordinary gift, not just to change his own life, but to change others' lives in the same way. And he would spend the rest of his career doing exactly that. The next morning, before his flight back to Miami, Marcus did something he'd been wanting to do for 3 years. He went to the Meridian Tower, took the service elevator down to the basement, and found the employee locker room where he used to eat his lunch. A young man, maybe 25, sat there eating a sandwich, scrolling through his phone. He looked up as Marcus entered, and his eyes widened slightly at the expensive suit. "Can I help you, sir?" the young man asked. "I used to work here," Marcus said, sitting down across from him. "Couple years ago. I was a janitor with Build Right Services." The young man relaxed. "Oh yeah? How'd you end up in the suit?" "Someone gave me a chance. Someone saw something in me I wasn't sure I saw in myself." Marcus leaned forward. "What's your name?" "Trevor." "Trevor, do you like this work?" Trevor shrugged. "It's a job. Pays the bills. I'm trying to save up for school, but it's slow going." "What do you want to study?" "Computer science. I'm good with tech, always have been. But school's expensive. And I've got my mom to help support, so..." He shrugged again. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his business card. "Trevor, I want you to email me this week. I can't promise anything, but I know some people who are looking for tech-savvy individuals for entry-level IT positions in my company. The pay's better than what you're making now, and we have tuition reimbursement programs." Trevor stared at the card, then at Marcus. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Send me your resume and a paragraph about why you want to work in tech. That's all I need." "Why?" Trevor asked, the same question Marcus had asked Al-Rashid 3 years ago. "Why would you help me? You don't know me." Marcus smiled. "Let's just say someone once helped me when I needed it. I'm paying it forward. But Trevor, I need you to promise me something." "What's that?" "When you get your chance, when you're successful and established and people look up to you, remember this moment. Remember what it felt like to be invisible, to work hard, and wonder if anyone notices, and then help someone else the way I'm helping you, the way someone once helped me." Trevor's eyes were shining. "I promise. I absolutely promise." "Good." Marcus stood. extended his hand. "I look forward to your email, Trevor." As Marcus left the building and climbed into the car that was waiting to take him to the airport, he felt a profound sense of peace. This was his purpose, not just to succeed himself, but to open doors for others, to create opportunities, to make sure that being invisible didn't mean being overlooked. Years would pass. Marcus would continue to rise through the company, eventually becoming Chief Operations Officer for Al Rashid Properties Global Operations. Jasmine would graduate from MIT with honors and start her own firm, designing resilient, sustainable buildings for communities affected by natural disasters. Trevor would join the IT department, excel in his role, complete his computer science degree through the company's tuition program, and eventually become head of digital infrastructure. And he would remember his promise, helping countless others along the way, always looking for the invisible people who just needed someone to see them. Al Rashid would retire at 70, having built an empire not just on financial success, but on the principle that a company's true value is measured by how it treats every person in its ecosystem, from the CEO to the custodial staff. And on the day of his retirement party, surrounded by hundreds of employees whose lives he'd touched, Al Rashid would pull Marcus aside and say, "Remember when I told you that someone once gave me a chance and it changed everything?" "Of course," Marcus would reply. "I wanted you to know that story was true, every word, but there was something I didn't tell you." Al Rashid's eyes would twinkle. "That developer who gave me my chance, before he was a developer, he was a brick carrier too. Someone saw him, believed in him, gave him an opportunity. He told me the same thing I told you. Remember where you came from and pass it forward." Marcus would feel tears in his eyes. "So this goes back generations," Al Rashid would finish. "People helping people, seeing potential, creating opportunities. That's the real legacy, Marcus. Not the buildings or the money or the power. It's the chain of compassion and possibility that we create. Link by link, person by person. And now I'm part of that chain," Marcus would say. "No," Al Rashid would correct gently. "Now you are that chain. For the next generation. You're the one who decides how far this legacy reaches, how many lives it touches. That's the real inheritance I'm leaving you." But that would all come later. On this September morning, 3 years after everything changed, Marcus Thompson boarded his flight back to Miami, pulled out his laptop, and began drafting an email to his regional team. The subject line read, "New Initiative, Seeing the Invisible." In the email, he outlined a new program to identify promising employees in entry-level positions and create pathways for their advancement. Training opportunities, mentorship programs, educational support, career counseling. Because Marcus Thompson understood something fundamental. The world is full of extraordinary people doing ordinary jobs, waiting for someone to see them, to believe in them, to give them a chance. And if you pay attention, if you really look at people instead of past them, you'll find brilliance in the most unexpected places. You'll discover that the person cleaning your office might be the future vice president. The security guard might be a budding entrepreneur. The custodian might be a genius in disguise. All they need is someone to see them, to really see them, to recognize that every person has value, potential, and a story worth knowing. That's what Khalid al-Rashid had done for Marcus Thompson on a September day in the Meridian Tower. And that's what Marcus Thompson would spend the rest of his life doing for others. Because that's how you change the world. Not through grand gestures, but through simple acts of recognition, compassion, and opportunity, extended one person at a time. The invisible become visible, the overlooked become essential, the forgotten become unforgettable. And one janitor's story becomes everyone's reminder that we're all just one moment, one connection, one act of kindness away from everything changing.